As expected, F1 has a two-race memory, and after Ollie Bearman's absolutely stunning execution of the Mexican Grand Prix, there's already calls that he will replace Hamilton for 2027. But as always, the question is, how much can we believe the rumours? Well, let's talk about it. This video is brought to you by checkmythumbnail.com, the analysis tool for YouTubers by YouTubers. Try it free today. So look, it's been known for a long time that Bearman is a future Ferrari driver. He's part of the Ferrari Academy. That's why he's in the Haas, which is Ferrari powered. So it shouldn't be a huge surprise to anyone that his future is being speculated upon. And it was only a few races ago that in reality, the speculation was that he wouldn't go to Ferrari at all because he was having a difficult start to his season. And this is compared to the benchmark that is Leclerc, which is a very high benchmark indeed. But then the Mexican Grand Prix came along, and obviously he nearly sat on the podium in a Haas, which puts him quite high on that list, especially when compared to Leclerc, at least, Hamilton has been struggling. To give Hamilton some credit though, Ferrari has been struggling since 2007. The thing is, though, a 2027 jump for Ollie Bearman is not out of the question for a couple of reasons. The first of which being that obviously both of the drivers' contracts end at the end of 2026. Hamilton is on a 2+1 and Leclerc is on a contract until 2029, much like Verstappen. The problem with this is basically that there are performance clauses in each season which allow him to essentially duck out or not take up an option for the next year, similar to Ferrari's side as well, but he is long-term contracted like Verstappen. So essentially the point is that both Hamilton and Leclerc have options for 2027, but those options very much depend on performance and from both sides. Ferrari is not like other teams. Ferrari comes first and drivers come second, which is why Ferrari never comes first. So the point is, neither driver are locked in for 2027, and in reality, Bearman getting a seat there is going to go one of two ways, either the good way for him or the bad way for him. Look, the obvious one is that if Ferrari massively underperform next season and are way off as kind of expected by a lot of people, then in reality, one of those drivers are going to drop. From what I understand, Hamilton very much wants to stick around for a while and is trying to get that 8th title, which I just don't see happening, but, you know, stranger things and so on. Anyway, the point is, if the team underperforms, then I can see Bearman coming in as a replacement to an outgoing Leclerc next season, who very much seems like it's kind of hit or miss for him next season. Or if the team does very, very well and Hamilton, for example, underperforms, then I can see him leaving next season as well. So I guess the question is more on Hamilton than anything else. The fact is, if one of those seats open up, I think that Bearman will be the go-to solution, because even if he doesn't perform like he did in Mexico for the rest of the season, and even if next season he doesn't have a stellar performance, the fact is he's shown some upside, some potential, and he's shown kind of the peaks that he can get to. And at only 20, it's obvious that he's going to go over there. So the real question becomes, if performance from Ferrari is good next year, how would Bearman's time play out? And that comes down to two realities, because the likelihood is that Leclerc is going to stick around. Leclerc has had the team built around him for a long time. Like I said, the performance clauses and so are there, that in reality, if the team does well, he's going to want to stick out to his 2029 contract, or at least extend it outwards. And Ferrari are going to want to keep the driver that they've built around, who is probably the fastest man over one lap in Formula One. So the question becomes, why does Hamilton go then? And I think that in reality comes down to some of the talk around Hamilton as of late and why we're seeing these rumors coming directly from Italian reports. And that is that Hamilton has been underperforming at Ferrari. And in fairness to Hamilton, his performances haven't been horrible. Compared to Leclerc, he's only been kind of a couple of tenths off in qualifying for the most part, which compared to Leclerc is not a huge deal, especially given it's his first season. But in the races, he hasn't been executing as well as expected. And I think the problem is more than just performance, because as a huge Seb fan, I watched that unfold with Ferrari, in that even when Leclerc was outperforming him to an extent, there wasn't really an issue until Seb started saying things about Ferrari. And I think that is where Hamilton has to be careful. Hamilton, if there is problems next year, will likely do what he's done. talk about the team in a bad way, say that the team is doing things. And remember, it wasn't so long ago that he was spouting the idea that the team were perhaps withholding stuff or giving stuff to Leclerc that he wasn't getting and so on. And then talking about how he's giving them reports and telling them what to do and all this sort of thing. That's fine at Mercedes. Mercedes love that. Ferrari, historically, not so much until you get a Schumacher-Braun duo, etc. in there, which Hamilton just isn't going to bring. He's not bringing that technical leadership. But like I said, the bigger issue is that at the moment, Hamilton is being paid roughly $100 million from Ferrari, including sponsorship deals and everything else. So it's a huge amount of money per year for the guy who is delivering second best in the team. So if he continues to do that in 2026, performance alone will see them not want to continue to spend that amount of money for an asset who isn't bringing that much to them in terms of marketing when they're not winning, for example. And even when they are winning, if Leclerc is winning every race and overperforming, then why not spend more on him? Because at the end of the day, as big of an asset as Hamilton is, winners quickly outperform the old guys. It just is the way it is. So look, the rant is just to say, and I think this could be a longer rant at some point about maybe Hamilton's performance at the end of the season, but the simple fact is Bearman is most likely going to be in that car in 2027. The real question is going to be, will it be because the car is good in 2026 and therefore Hamilton goes due to what I've just talked about, or whether the car is bad in 2026 and they're trying to replace Leclerc as quickly as possible? That's going to be the interesting part. Subscribe.